So this sword, it comes with a decorative scabbard and a smaller, more economical scabbard. If you're like running around through the woods, you might want not a huge clunky thingy. It looks cool, but you might want something that doesn't weigh you down. So that will hold your sword, but then also when you draw it and you fight, this thing isn't going to be like slapping and catching on stuff and all that. So I like these personally, but these also look super cool. I'm going to show you how to put together this sword and these two scabbards. Now, here we go. Push these out. All right, so I've got these two pieces. I'm going to start with this. This is going to be the foundation of your sword. Make sure that this middle score is on the outside of both sides. Okay? You'll notice that the inside doesn't have that score. That's going to help this to flex. I'm going to start by flexing the bottom piece. I might just fold it over. You can put your fingers like that. Flex that. If you hear some cracking, that's okay. That means that the fluting is just adjusting to how you want it to be shaped. Okay, that's good. Awesome. So I'm going to start by taping the bamboo into this. This is going to be kind of like a little tuna boat, a little hot dog. All right, so I've got my roll of tape. Pull it like this, put my finger here, and then rip it. Okay? So I'm going to get some of these pieces, and I'm going to tape the bamboo into this sort of groove, this channel. All right? You can tape it, you can push the bamboo up towards the back if you want to. Just make sure that it's not too close to the tip. You want to be able to sandwich another layer of cardboard on top of this without this like pushing through, okay? Because you don't want this to go through the tip of your sword. That's dangerous. So I like to keep this about that close to the edge, the tip of it, okay? Boom, secured. Now, I'm going to take this side, and then remember, we want to shape it okay, and if that happens, that's okay. We're all just gonna crunch and tape this together anyway. That's just, it's not gonna show, essentially. All right, so that's going to fit on top of here. You're gonna notice that these parts are probably going to crease like that. That's all right. We've got other shapes that are gonna lay on top of that, reinforcing this crossguard. Okay, so before we start taping this together, we want to start pinching these edges. So this is gonna be a little tough. You essentially want to smoosh and crunch the edges so that it's not like a big edge like this. You want to make it really thin and tight. It's going to make it look cool, but also it's going to make it last longer because the layers are going to be more tightly bound when you tape them. You can pinch the edge like this, and then what I like to do is I will take a piece of tape, I'll put it on one side, okay? That's not attached yet, all right? I'll put it on one side, I'll pinch it, I'll line it up, and then I'll make sure that I've got the pressure on there, holding the edges together, and then I will wrap it over. So if you're taping and you're not doing a good job of pinching, it's gonna look like this. You just go like that, and you just do that, then, or if you're like mummy wrapping it, you're not going to be able to get the right amount of pressure. You're just like, oh, that's good, and that's good. Okay, great. And now, when you go and, you know, use your sword, it's all going to shift, it's going to flex, this is going to crump, you know, and you're going to get this like wacky monstrosity, okay? You don't want this. All right. I'm going to pinch these bits like that, kind of shaping and forming the cardboard. Again, it might like rip a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to hold it. Okay. And then I'm going to wrap it over. All right. Feels good. Okay, so I'm going to continue to tape along the blade, and I'll probably tape a little bit of these guys. What I like to do is use smaller pieces and then overlap the pieces. So, you know, if you're like, this is a straight sword, why don't just use one piece of tape? It's like, that's a good point. But if you use smaller pieces and overlap them, it'll be stronger. But this is also your sword, so you can do it however you want to. So during the construction process, you're going to find areas that are going to be too small for a normal sized piece of this large tape. You know, if you do that, then you're going to have all this bulk over here coming off the top. You can just tape it, fold it over, it'll have some wrinkles, that's okay. But if you want to, I would recommend taking it and then tearing it, and then you can use those pieces for smaller areas. As you get to shapes that are curved, you're going to want to use smaller pieces of tape so that it doesn't bunch up. If you use one piece like this, it's going to start to get, you know, bunched up here, and it's going to create a bunch of wrinkles. So if you go like this way, or if you just use smaller pieces of tape, you could like use these sizes, then that way it's going to make this curve much more gradual. Now let's get some of the other pieces. All right, so you're going to notice, like last time, these have a score on them. That means that they're going to be on the outside, okay? So if this bends like that, you're going to want this to flip over and be on the outside of that one. See how it's got the score? I'm going to do a little bit of pinching, just wherever I feel like I want to have it be shaped. I'm going to do a little crunching down here on this part, and then I'm going to crunch these parts, just these edge pieces right here. Let's see. Just so that they're kind of like nice and pointy. Okay. I'm going to start ripping my tape into smaller sizes so I can start getting into these smaller shapes. And then pinch it. Wrap this part around. And then you can wrap that part over. Okay. So you can tape up all the edges and go really crazy with the tape. If you're doing paper mache, I recommend that you at least seal the edges of the cardboard. That way the mache doesn't get in there, and it would take longer for it to dry. If you want to, you can just go and use your sword as is. But if you mache it, it's gonna be much stronger. Okay. This is like wood. I'm going to add these pieces. I'm just gonna eyeball it. You can kind of see right here that this goes with the edge of this. Okay? So you want to be able to see these layers that you're adding on once it's taped or mached, and you'll be able to see them. They'll be defined if you make sure that your tape is following the contours of the shapes that you're adding. So if you just go like this, then you're not going to see any definition of this shape. So you want to make sure that you're using the right size chunks of tape. And when you're adding this, you want to make sure that you're really pushing the tape down into that corner, okay? Make sure that you really push those edges in. Sometimes you might have to go back and reinforce that. But make sure that you've really defined that edge by pushing it into the corner. Now, I'm going to add these parts. This is this piece, this shape running down the blade. So I'm going to add this right in there. I'm going to crunch it down at the ending here so that it kind of like tapers. It tapers down into the blade edge right here, like that. You've got a couple different options for this part right here. You could, if you don't want like a skull theme, you could add these pieces on top of each other like that, and you can build out this little shape. I think that's kind of cool. But I'm gonna put the skull on here. Now there is a slight difference. This isn't a symmetrical shape, so if you really care a lot, you might want to find the way that it matches up. It's also not a big deal. You're probably going to want to bend this a little bit. You could even put a score in it if you want to. Okay. Crack that a little. Line that up. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to add this on there. Okay, boom, there you go. I would add more tape to these parts to secure them. If you're just going to be, fighting with it as a taped sword, that's cool. But I do recommend that you mache it because it makes it much stronger. It's gonna last a lot longer and it looks cool. All right, now we're gonna build the scabbards. For the scabbard, you're going to need these two parts right here, which are the main structures. Okay. Then you're going to need this piece, which is the belt loop. You're going to need these pieces. One is going to be spanning the end of your scabbard to help maintain its shape. And then these pieces are going to be going here to help space that. Then these two parts are the decoration. So that goes here, and that piece goes there. Boink. Yay. So first, we're gonna build this part. So they're scored. You wanna make sure that as you're flexing it, you just remember that you're going to be flexing away from the score. Okay? That's okay if that happens. We're all gonna be taping it together anyway. So now I'm going to pinch these edges a little bit because it'll make a nicer contour. But you don't have to. And I'm going to start by putting a piece of tape on the edge here. I'll just go here. Now, I don't want to like pinch it flat like that. I want to try to maintain the shape, have this bowed out when I bring this in, because then it'll want to keep its shape a little bit more nicely, okay? Okay, so we're going to start with this piece down here. This one is going to split right there, and I'm going to crunch this so that it curves with the edge right here. I'm going to tape this in here to support that shape, just like that. I'm going to hold that in there, almost like a mouth. I'm going to try to line it up with this edge. There you go. Now I'm going to take these pieces, I'm going to go like this, and then this is going to go here, just like that, to help spread this shape. Now you want to try to keep your scabbard like big enough so that when you paper mache your sword and when you paper mache your scabbard, when the paper mache dries, it's going to shrink and tighten things. So you want to be able to make sure that both the sword and the scabbard still work after the mached. All right, so that is the basic shape. You can check this out. It'll feel pretty loose. Once you mache everything, it's all going to like tighten up, and then you can add some spacers in here, pieces of cardboard, so that it'll make this tighter. It's always better to have it just a little looser, especially when you're going to mache. So I'm going to add these pieces, the decorative parts. Shape that a little bit, give that a curve, line that up. Just make sure to get into the edges if you want to keep that shape definition. Shape this. And that's going to go up on here. So now we're going to add this piece. This is the belt loop. So this is if it was going to rest on my left hip, you know, and then I'm going to draw it that way with my right hand. Okay? If I'm a righty, that's how I'm going to draw it. If I'm a lefty, I would put this so that the loop is here. Okay? So I'd flip that around. All right? So you've got this piece. And what you want to do first is crunch it. And you see this little cut right there? You want to line this up with that. Okay? You can smoosh this together. And then before I tape this together, I'm going to add some tape on the inside here. Why? Well, that's a great question. I'm doing that because that will help reinforce this portion. And I'm doing that because the belt loop is a high stress area of this scabbard. I don't want it to rip. That's why the corrugation's running this way. So I'm going to fold this tape over. And now what I'm going to do is fold this to that cut, and then I'm going to tape this. I'm going to do a little tape over here. All right, now I've got this. The loop is secure, and I'm going to bend this a little bit so that it fits here. And I'm gonna kind of like feel it out. I'm gonna put my sword in here, and then I'm gonna like angle this to where it's comfortable. So say this bike tire tube is my belt, right? Well, I probably don't want it to be like this unless I want it to be like straight up and down. This is my hip line, right? I don't want it to be like this because then my sword might just fall out. I might just keep it in line with this. Okay. Now, I'm gonna tape this down a bunch. All right. Boom. So this is the larger scabbard. I'm gonna put this over here, and let's make a smaller one. All right, to build your mini scabbard, you're going to need these two pieces. This is the actual structure, this is the decoration, and then this one is the belt loop. Okay, so let's start by crunching these. It might seem like it's a little less structurally sound, which is true, but this is double ply and you're gonna be adding a lot of tape and mache, you're fine. Okay, now I'm gonna pinch this a little bit, pinch this edge a little bit, I'm gonna pinch this one and this one. Okay, so I'm gonna grab one of these and line that up with the other side. Wrap that around. And I'm gonna open this up a little bit before I tape that. That way it's already got some pressure and it won't just boom, become flat. And then I'm gonna add this part right here. I'm gonna line that up with this top notch. I'm gonna add a bit of tape in this seam and here. All right, and same on the other side. And now I'm going to add the belt loop. So I want this on my left hip. So I'm going to curve this around and then put it like that. I'm going to start by crunching this. Okay. And then I'm going to pinch this. I'm going to pinch this too. And I'm going to add some reinforcement in there. Okay. I'm going to fold this over. Okay. Now you don't want it to be flat like that. You want there to be an opening so you can put your belt in. Makes sense. And then I'm going to add this right there. Boom. Test it with a sword. Yep. See if it fits. If it's a little loose, that's okay, because when you mache everything, it's going to get tighter. All right, you've got your sword done and both of the scabbards. Great job. Check the playlist for the other assembly videos.